Fatela duro! 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 Capra ignorante!
Hello guys and welcome back to the 28th episode of Italian Politician of the Week. I am Ipernick and I make weekly videos in Italian history and politics in English. Today we're talking about Romano Prodi, who was Prime Minister twice from 1996 to 1998 and from 2006 to 2008. He was also President of the European Commission from 1999 to 2004. Prodi is an extremely influential figure that left a big impact on Italy, Europe and the Italian left in general. In the time period that many journalists and some historians refer to as the Second Republic, aka the Berlusconi era, he was the only man capable of uniting all the parties that didn't like Berlusconi in one big coalition, and he was able to beat him twice, hence winning the election and getting the vote of confidence. Now, I once again have to remind you about my series on Italian presidents, not for the sake of shameless self-promotion, but for necessity. In the episodes of Scalfaro and Napolitano, I talk very extensively about the elections of 1996 and 2006, where Prodi led the Olive Branch coalition against Berlusconi, as well as the dynamic of his governments. Today I will talk about Prodi's history, views and accomplishments, but if you want to find out more about his rise to power and the way his cabinets came and went, I strongly recommend checking out the video you will see above. I received some comments and messages from people telling me that they actually didn't watch the series because they thought they were biographies of presidents, but in reality they are complete documentaries about the main events that characterized their mandates from 1946 up until today. If you were also a victim of such misconception, I can't recommend the series enough. Also, because the episodes on Scalfaro, Napolitano and Pertini are definitely the videos I am most proud of. But enough about them. Let's jump into the history of Romano Prodi, or as his friends call him, baloney.
Yeah, sometimes when I'm lonely, I stick my dick in baloney.
Romano Prodi was born in 1939 in Scandiano, a town near Reggio Emilia. He graduated in economics at the Catholic University in Milan in 1961 and did postdoctoral work at the London School of Economics. He became a professor of political economics and researcher in 1963 at the University of Bologna and specialized in industrial management. His tutor was Beniamino Andreatta, a very influential politician from Democrazia Cristiana, who was Minister of Treasure from 1980 to 1982. He is remembered today for his rivalry with Minister of Economics Rino Formica. They hated each other so intensively that they forced the Prime Minister Giovanni Spadolini to resign because the cabinet just couldn't work anymore. If you want to know more about this story, like the video and comment down below. If we reach 35 likes and 10 comments, I'm going to put Andreatta and Formica in the poll so you guys can vote for them. Seriously though, no more interruptions. Prodi was very influenced by Andreatta, not only for his teachings but also for his political views. He was close to Moro's current before he passed in 1978, meaning that Prodi was part of the left-wing group of Democrazia Cristiana, the one open to cooperation with the socialists and the communists, and that advocated for the nationalization of a few sectors such as energy and infrastructure. Due to his political activism and academic titles, he was chosen as Minister of Industry in Andreatti's fourth cabinet from November 1978 to March of the next year. Prodi actually had a very interesting role in Aldo Moro's kidnapping and in the police attempts of finding him. But before I say more, here's his political compass. Prodi is a left-wing centrist. He wants more state intervention on the free market, but when it comes to social issues such as sexual identities and abortion, he acknowledges their complexity and therefore intends to make various concessions in order to protect the people in need, making him moderately lib-left. Now, here's what he did during the Aldo Moro situation. So remember when I said that Prodi taught in the Bologna University? Well, Bologna is known for being being full of commies. I can confirm, and so many people were actually sympathetic to the Red Brigades and their causes. Due to this, many of the members, operative or not, actually took refuge in the city. Many of these people could have actually been students of Prodi's. It is believed that Prodi and some of his party mates, who also worked at the university, were able to get in contact with a mole that told them about the exact location of the apartment where Aldo Moro was kept. In order to cover up the identity of the spy, Prodi and his colleagues said that they actually found out about the address by summoning the ghost of the recently deceased former mayor of Florence, Giorgio La Pira, with a fucking Ouija board. La Pira's ghost then told them the exact location of Moro, which did turn out a very reliable source. Sadly, the authorities didn't get there in time. The Independent published a great article about this, which I will put in the description if you guys want to investigate further. But as historian Alessandro Barbero, alongside many others before him, demonstrated, it was all a lie made up by the DC for the reason I mentioned earlier. The story was blown out of proportion by Berlusconi in his campaigns of undermining Prodi before the 2006 elections. Very low, I know. Today, the people who believe Prodi legit talked to ghosts, demons and shit are either the missing link between snails and chimps or vote for the 5-star movement. Either way, someone needs to smash their internet router. For real though, I have to calm down with the off-topic tangents. After Moro's passing, Prodi got close to Ciriaco de Mita, a man famous for his knowledge and progressive policies, who led the left-wing current of DC until its eventual fall. Then Prodi became president of the Institute of Industrial Reconstruction, where he played a big role in the technological advancement of the sector as well as the improvement of the working conditions. He will resign only in 1994 after a deep disagreement with the now Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi, a conflict so strong that made them decide to jump into politics in August of that year. Prodi will create the Olive Tree Coalition in 1995, taking over the leadership of the previous left-wing coalition led by the lame Achille Occhetto. His union was composed of social democrats, social Christians, Republicans, social liberals, socialists, environmentalists, progressives, communists, and even many former Christian Democrats who wanted to side with their former colleague. A few names off the top of my head are Cossiga, De Mita, and Mariotto Segni. Thanks to the overwhelming support, Prodi, the only man realistically capable of stopping Berlusconi's campaign that seemed a business venture more than an actual race, succeeded and became prime minister in 1996. A similar situation came to be in 2006 too, except that Berlusconi played a lot dirtier since he knew what Prodi was capable of. Sadly, Prodi's alliance wasn't very good at sticking together outside political campaigns. The communists under Bertinotti turned out an awful pain in the ass for Prodi in his first cabinet, while in the second cabinet, problems laid more on gaining a parliamentary majority, which was difficult due to the poorly written electoral law which they had at the time. Despite their instability and the relatively shorter durations of the left-wing governments during the Berlusconi era, many of them are remembered positively. However, lately, Prodi has become a very controversial figure. Now, personally, I think that Prodi is a very reliable politician. His specialty is reaching compromises, and he deserves more credit for passing laws regarding civil unions and Mastella's justice reforms. However, many people just hate him. Populists hate him because he advocated heavily for Italy to join the Eurozone and to adopt the euro as a currency some years later. Today, there are many misconceptions on the European Union and the euro, and therefore Prodi is often antagonized despite his unmatched knowledge on the matter. What is a lot more deserving of consideration is what the right often criticizes him for. Prodi is a big advocate of economic cooperation with China. He seems to believe that Italy should take the example of the Chinese economic model. Massimo D'Alema, one of Prodi's close collaborators who was part of the Communist Party, is more famous for his pro-China views, but people often forget yet how Prodi strongly agreed with D'Alema on working very closely with China while distancing from the US. This idea stems from about 15 years ago, when Bush Jr.'s neoconservative foreign policy after 9/11 was deemed overly aggressive and China was perceived as the global underdog with insane potential. However, today China is more of a threat to freedom and Western values, so Prodi's Eastern stances really didn't age well at all. According to his blog and recent interviews, it doesn't seem that his position changed that much, leading to many people losing respect for him. Despite Prodi's historical and intellectual value, he lacks something that Berlusconi has, that being versatility. Berlusconi's views for the most part have stayed consistent and yet aged pretty well. If it wasn't for his deteriorating health, he would still be one of the most powerful people in the country. Well, he still is, but not as much as 10 years ago. On the other hand, Prodi seems to be stuck in 2008, and for that reason, outside of being an informal figurehead of the modern Democratic Party, he really doesn't do much. To be fair, unlike Berlusconi, Prodi did have the guts to retire, which is something I can hardly imagine Berlusconi ever doing, but honestly, he should reevaluate his stances, because if you still intend to give advice to contemporaries, I find it essential to not live in the past. So that was my hot take on Romano Prodi. What do you guys think about him? Do you agree with me when I say that he has fallen a bit off grace by simping for the Chinese imperial system? I feel like Prodi is going to be a great controversial historical figure to talk about in 20 years or so, once his legacy is more understood. Looking forward to my video trending in 2041. Aside of the Chinese bullshit, I honestly really admire Romano Prodi, and I really hope to meet him one day, since we live in the same city. If you think that Prodi actually did talk to La Pira's ghost, remember to unsubscribe. I will see you next time.